Hello, and welcome to my new series I like to call The Worst Game Ever. In this series, I'll look at some of the gaming industry's greatest failures and explore what made them bad games. For the first episode, we're going to look at a game from one of my favorite series, Sonic 06. Growing up, I loved the Sonic the Hedgehog games, from the very first game to the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis if you're American. Many people look back on those games with a fond memory, and for the most part they should, although never replay Sonic Adventure 1 if you want your good memories of that game to stay intact. So, what went wrong for Sonic? Most people attribute Sonic's downfall with the GameCube game Sonic Heroes. In this game, you played as three of the Sonic characters at once. Each one of the team had different abilities you needed to complete the level. Fundamentally, it wasn't a bad idea. However, there were four teams in the game, and all of them played more or less the same, with very similar level goals. The game was also very buggy, and most of the time characters would fall through the stage for no reason. Heroes, however, was merely the start of a long line of terrible games, including the likes of Shadow the Hedgehog, a third-person shooter game. Yeah, I got nothing for that. Because of these video game flops, people began to lose interest in the Sonic series. Sonic began to fade away and people moved on. It was kind of sad. Then came Sonic Team's big idea. On the 15-year anniversary of the Sonic series in 2006, a new game was announced, Sonic the Hedgehog. This game was meant to be about getting back to the roots of Sonic. The problem was, over the years, those roots had been lost in a sea of game staples, for example, orca whales. There are many reasons why this new game, Sonic 06, is dubbed one of the worst games of all times. So, let's take a look at them. First of all, new characters. The game introduces three main new characters, which all have their own personal flaws. Silver, the fourth hedgehog to be introduced to the series and the third playable character for this game, his gameplay is weird, using mind control powers to pick up objects and throw them at things. Not what you expect in a Sonic game. Also, his character is a straight up rip-off of Dragon Ball Z's Trunks. Don't get me wrong, I'm well aware of the similarities between Sonic and Dragon Ball Z, and that they're all deliberate. Silver Trunks is a little too unoriginal for me. Next we have the love interest. No, not Amy Rose, as the rest of the human race would expect, but a human princess. Not sure about you guys, but that's just wrong. Bestiality has no place in a children's game. At this point, Sonic is very close to stepping on Mario's territory. Saving princesses is his thing after all. And let's not talk about this scene. The final character is the new bad guy, Mephiles. He's an interesting character, but the main problem I have with him is he's voiced by Dan Green. Now, I love Dan Green as a voice actor. For those of you who don't know, he also voices Knuckles and has done since Sonic Adventure. So what's the problem, you ask? Well, for whatever reason, Mephiles is voiced exactly the same way as Yami from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, making what should be a terrifying bad guy into a hilarious joke. Of course, then again, when you look at the hairstyle, I kind of see a resemblance. Now, a lot of you who haven't played the game are thinking, okay, so there's some bad character choices, but that doesn't mean the game is bad. Well, before you send me rage comments, listen up, because I'm going to move on to gameplay. So, there are three main gameplay types. First, Sonic. His levels are generally more traditional. To try and add difficulty, they gave enemies health bars. Also, to make the game seem faster, a mock speed section was added to the end of some of the levels. Now, the mock speed sections aren't a bad idea, but they're executed poorly. If you crash into anything, you don't lose speed, and you can just get stuck on obstacles and slowly lose health until you die. Next is the Shadow gameplay. It uses the same playstyle as Shadow the Hedgehog. Remember that thing I glossed over earlier? Yeah, that. Okay, so a brief overview for those of you who haven't played that game. Shadow rides around in vehicles and shoots things with guns. The game plays more like a third-person shooter than a traditional platform. It sounds like fun, but due to the game's many glitches and shitty level designs, it doesn't really work. Finally, we have Silver's gameplay. As I said earlier, he picks up objects and throws them at bad guys with his psychic powers. I kind of like his gameplay, but it's very repetitive, and it's nowhere near as refined as it should be. Now we move on to the real reason people hate this game. Loading screens. They're everywhere and they're angry. You're never more than 2 minutes between you and the next loading screen. Not only that, but unless you have the game installed on your console, they'll likely take 5 minutes each, And if you do, they'll probably take 2.5. They're fast and they're furious. So throughout this episode, I've listed some of the things that make this game bad. Believe me, there's a lot more, and I encourage you to look into it if you're interested. But now I'm going to look at why this game is bad. Mainly, the game is clearly unfinished. Sonic Team rushed to get this game out for Christmas 2006, and as a result, ended up with an unfinished and very buggy game. In a lot of places, you can tell the game just doesn't seem right. Little things look like more was planned, but were just never input. Not only that, but the game really doesn't feel like a Sonic game. If you watch the opening cutscene, you can get very confused with a Final Fantasy game. Clearly the Sonic team tried to focus on a new and exciting plot, but we're missing out on the fundamentals that made a Sonic game fun to play. In most people's opinion, Sonic 06 is a bad game, but is it the worst game ever? Push your own thoughts on the game and all of your frustrations you had with it. Also, drop a comment about other games you think are the worst game ever, and maybe I'll look into them next. Until then, thanks for watching.